Thomas Screven. I'm 17 years old, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 4.
I'm Spayde. I'm 15 years old, and I was diagnosed with type 1 in 2013.
Hi, I'm Junior Wright, and I'm 10 years old, and I was diagnosed in 2018.
Hi, I'm Marina Kaipagyan. I'm 16, and I was diagnosed 6 years ago.
To care for my diabetes, normally I go for walks whenever my blood sugar is high. I also test my blood sugar whenever I'm feeling unwell. I take my insulin, and if my blood sugar gets low, I eat something.
And I routinely check throughout the day, and according to meals and exercise, I correct accordingly.
So for almost all my living memory, I've had type 1 diabetes, so it's just been life.
For me, diabetes has always been a lingering reminder in the back of my head. Even though I've learned to be independent, it always has a role in most of my decisions daily.
In my 13 years having type 1 diabetes, I've seen the technology and just general lifestyle of type 1 diabetics improve so much. And a lot of that came from research. And the money for that research, a lot of that came from the Jdrf One Walk.
Jdrf and the One Walk mean a lot to me because it shows how much support there is for people with type 1 like me and how much hope there is for the technology to keep improving.
For me, I like to support Jdrf and the One Walk because I want to kill diabetes.
A cure would mean one less thing to think about in my day-to-day life and to allow myself to focus more on things I want to do rather than things I need to do.
For me, a cure would mean I wouldn't always have to be worrying about my blood sugar. I wouldn't have to always be thinking in the back of my mind about how everything I do will affect my diabetes. So it just means I could be a little more free.
To me, a cure really means I would be able to be with my friends and not have to worry about what food I'm going to eat or if I'm going to go low.
And the cure to me would mean almost everything because a lot of stress in my life is caused by diabetes. Thank you for supporting Jdrf.
Thank you for supporting me and my friends.
Thank you for supporting the 1.6 million Americans with type 1 diabetes.
And thank you for helping us find a cure for type 1 diabetes. Together we can change the world.
That's the power of us.
Let's turn type 1 into type none.
Thank you for being a hero.
Thank you all for being here. My name is Anu Sharma, and I'm the Corporate Development Co-Chair for Jdrf's Northern California chapter. As most of you already know, Jdrf is the leading organization that funds research towards a cure for type 1 diabetes. As you just heard from our wonderful youth ambassadors, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition which causes the body to produce little to no insulin. For people who have it, their daily life involves self-injecting the right amount of insulin to keep their blood sugar level in range. Any errors can be life-threatening. Most people with type 1 diabetes are unfortunately diagnosed as young children and manage it as a lifelong condition starting in their school years. Parents and families play a huge role in helping their loved ones manage this disease, and it can be very, very difficult at times. Through today's event, we are looking to you for your support to drive our mission towards finding a cure for type 1 diabetes. We hope to answer the question, why Jdrf and why now? Before COVID hit, the research being funded by Jdrf was on the verge of making truly significant advancements. For example, cell replacement therapy, which aims to replace damaged beta cells in the pancreas with fully functioning cells. This would effectively allow the body to produce insulin on its own. But fundraising constraints have unfortunately shifted priorities away from this promising research, which will at a minimum delay and potentially even stall progress. And there are so many other examples, as you will hear from our panelists today. Most of this research is in the form of multi-year studies that are well underway and rely on annual funding to continue to achieve their goals. COVID has significantly impacted Jdrf's fundraising ability, that relied heavily on in-person events. And so far, nearly 100 events this year across the country have been affected. This has resulted in a $50 million funding deficit, which has limited JDRF's ability to fund ongoing research. In addition, JDRF has also experienced a 40% reduction in staff. Our mission, that we worked so hard to drive for the last 50 years, is under threat, right when we're so close to achieving breakthroughs. We're working very hard to reimagine ways to drive our mission in these difficult times. Being at the Geographic Center of Innovation, the Northern California chapter has launched new and creative strategies to virtually connect the T1D community and continue to raise funds for our mission. This event today is an example, and we greatly appreciate you being here today to support JDRF. Today, you will hear from 3 business leaders, each representing global organizations in different fields. They will share with us why their organizations have chosen to partner with JDRF and why this could be a meaningful choice for your organization too. We will hear from Katie Spade, who is Divisional Vice President at Abbott Diabetes Care, a company that is pioneering the development of the latest blood sugar monitoring systems. We'll hear from Katie just what is possible with your continued support. Next, we will hear from Edward Screven, Chief Corporate Architect at Oracle, about how one of the biggest software companies in the world is leaning in a big, big way, and why it's more important than ever for all of us to be heroes. After Edward, we will hear from Ernie Franklin, who is the Chief Operating Officer at VSP Global, about how the employees at VSP have embraced JDRF as their charity of choice. And last but not the least, we'll hear from Kevin at JDRF about how your company, your employees, and your colleagues can get involved in a meaningful and fun way to make a difference in these extraordinary times. With that, I'm very pleased to introduce Katie Spade from Avid Diabetes Care. Thanks, Katie, for being here.
Great, thank you, Anu, and thank you to all for having us. Excited to be here. My name is Katie Spade, and I'm the Divisional Vice President for Abbott's U.S. Diabetes Care business. The stories that the Youth Ambassador shared this morning are exactly why we walk for JDRF, to help strive for a future where people like them have access to the best tools available for their diabetes, tools that help them live and play like kids without having to worry about the next finger stick. It's that vision that we share with our friends at JDRF that has led us to support them for more than 14 years. Over at Abbott, our goal is to alleviate the burden of diabetes, whether that's removing the pain of finger sticks or ensuring people have the right information to make the right treatment decisions at the right time. In fact, over the past year, we've expanded our access to Freestyle Libre continuous glucose monitoring technology to more people, with over 2 million users worldwide. It's been an exciting few months for us. Our Freestyle Libre 2 was cleared by the FDA for adults and children 4 and older in the US. This is a moment we've all been waiting for, to support kids like these youth ambassadors and their families with our latest technology, and it's now available in most pharmacies across the US. In fact, I was on the phone with a pediatric endocrinologist, and he was so excited that Freestyle Libre 2 is now available for kids. With its ease of use, unsurpassed 14-day accuracy, and minute-by-minute alarms and readings, now parents and kids have more options when it comes to managing their condition. We also want our Freestyle Libre technology to be as accessible and as affordable as possible, so as many people living with diabetes can access it. And that's why we're offering Freestyle Libre 2 system with these enhanced features at the same price as our Freestyle Libre 14-day system, with its 70% lower price than other CGMs. Many of the lives of people living, making the lives of people living with diabetes is better is what has led us to partner with JDRF for so many years, and to participate in the walk each year with large numbers of our employees, regardless of the circumstances. We've walked during wildfires, we've walked while we're pregnant, and I can testify to that, or with broken bones, and now we're walking, although virtually during a global pandemic. Nothing will stop our commitment to this cause. I want to pause for a moment on the global pandemic because it's extra meaningful for us and our customers. As you know, having diabetes puts people at higher risk for increased complications from COVID-19. Abbott's made a concerted effort to help those impacted by the virus. Specifically, we've donated more than $23 million in collaboration with the Abbott Fund to hospitals, nonprofits, food banks, local and national governments, and patient associations working globally to support COVID-19 patients, frontline healthcare workers, and their families. We've worked with the FDA to make Freestyle Libre 14-day system available to hospitals to minimize PPE use and exposure to physicians, staff, and patients with diabetes, and donated 25,000 CGM sensors to hospitals across the country. Additionally, we boosted our remote monitoring capabilities. We've added a patient to practice feature to our Freestyle Libre Link mobile app that allows people to send their glucose reports to their physicians more easily. They can manage their diabetes in the comfort of their homes. We've also developed, launched, and produced 6 different tests to help identify, track, and ultimately contain the novel coronavirus. Most recently, we launched a $5 15-minute COVID-19 antigen test last week, which will make testing widely available and accessible. And we've done all this while learning to work in a new environment, in new ways, thinking more creatively, and really pushing the envelope about what could be done and how. But we're not stopping there. The constricting economy has dramatically impacted the ability of nonprofits to raise much needed funds. From layoffs to dwindling resources to lower contributions, groups like Jdrf have been hit hard. Yet their work continues. They are essential in the fight against diabetes. They are working tirelessly to continue to fund ongoing diabetes research that is crucial to people living with diabetes. At Abbott, we believe you can live your best life through the power of health. And what does that mean? It's the idea that better health allows people and communities to achieve more. We're so committed to the idea that we're supporting Jdrf with a $25,000 sponsorship, and we'll donate $100 for each employee up to $20,000 to purchase Peyton One Walk. We're also sponsoring Jdrf's Bag of Hope, a bag filled with useful resources for both a child who has been diagnosed with T1D and their caregivers. It even includes an adorable bear named Rufus who has diabetes. We're also partnering with Jdrf on a global initiative to advocate for coverage reimbursement legislation for people who use insulin. And that's not all. We have an annual giving campaign where we match every dollar that an employee donates to organizations like Jdrf. And we have an aspiration to provide a CGM for every newly diagnosed child with type 1 diabetes to help transform the experience of people with diabetes, just as Jdrf has done. We do all this because we know that Jdrf's mission and our beliefs are aligned, and we're working toward a common goal: healthier people leading healthier and more productive and fulfilling lives. I encourage you to join us in a big way this year, both financially and with your sponsorship, by encouraging your employees and their families and friends to take part in the virtual walk. There may be a global pandemic, but there's still work to be done so that one day we can say we did it. We turned type 1 to type none. And with your support, the future is full of possibilities. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Edward Screven, Chief Corporate Architect at Oracle.
Thank you very much. So my personal connection with type 1 diabetes is that my son Thomas was diagnosed with type 1 when he was 4 years old. You actually saw him. He was one of the 4 youth ambassadors. You saw he was the kid in the top right hand corner. When Thomas was first diagnosed, I mean, it's, when you're a parent, it's really an overwhelming experience, right? Because all of a sudden you have this giant new care obligation for your child, and there's just a lot to learn in no time. I mean, because all of a sudden now you're testing your child, you're administering insulin, right? You're trying to figure out, a diet, everything else. It's really a pretty overwhelming experience. Now, the thing that you discover also, though, is that there are lots of folks out there who've already gone through it and are very, very generous with their time, right? And very, very generous with their advice. And it was really by making those connections with those other folks in the community really quickly that let us be able to manage our son's diabetes. But as soon as you get over that hump, the next thing you start asking yourself is, all right, well, what's the end game here? How do we get to a point where the health of my child is no longer at risk? Because we should be completely frank and honest here, right? Type 1 diabetes has long-term health consequences, right? I mean, and severe health consequences for people who don't or are not able to manage their type 1 well. And so the next thing we did is we discovered, okay, what's the research that's going on? Who's actually trying to make people's lives better, right? Well, it turns out there was this organization called the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, right, which is the leading organization for sponsoring research to make the lives of people with type 1 diabetes better. And in addition, not only make their day-to-day lives better by sponsoring research into things like assistive devices, right, looking for a cure, and also looking for ways to prevent type 1 diabetes. And so we became involved with Jdrf because, you know, we could see that this was by far the most effective way to help our son and help other people like my son, 1.6 million Americans, okay? And just through the years, and my son is 17 now, right? So over this period of 13 years, we can see the actual impact on both my son and other folks. When my son was first diagnosed, he injected insulin using syringes. He tested using a little handheld meter, you know, where he had to do a finger prick, right? And I mean, that was many times per day, many injections per day. Well, now he uses a continuous glucose monitor. So it's a little device that he attaches to his arm, right? And he uses a pod that administers insulin at a basal rate plus bolusing for meals. So his life has gotten a lot better over those 13 years, right? And that wouldn't have happened without Jdrf, right? And so that's why personally, as an individual and as a family, you know, we are very supportive of Jdrf. And it's why when I talk to other executives inside the company, Oracle, they decided to become a sponsor of Jdrf One Walk, right? So Oracle is now the second year running of being a Jdrf One Walk sponsor at the hero level. And you know, as a business leader, as a manager, I mean, I think and I think probably many of you have had the same experience. You know, when there is a cause, when there is an objective for your employees, you know, it's a really it's a great way to bring everyone together and focus on some tasks and really build that kind of team feeling, right? So when we became a sponsor last year for the first time, hundreds of Oracle employees signed up at the last minute to walk. I mean, it was incredibly rewarding, right? Incredibly rewarding to see the support from my fellow employees, but I think also among themselves, they also got a great sense of being part of some larger thing, which you know isn't necessarily, you know, get the next build done for the next release of the product, right? And so from a company standpoint, from a pure business standpoint, being being a sponsor of something like Jdrf One Walk, I mean, it's a very good way to build camaraderie. It's a very good way to build morale. Now we find ourselves in a very difficult time. I mean, obviously, you know, everyone and everything has been affected by COVID-19, right? I don't think there's been any kind of activity or organizations that are more affected right now than nonprofits, right? Because whenever there's any sort of economic disruption, it's very natural for people to hold their purse strings tighter. I mean, that's just reality. Okay, and what that reality means for Jdrf, right, is they are receiving less money, right? And because Jdrf is such an efficient organization, Jdrf, you know, one of the other things that really attracted us, Oracle and myself, to Jdrf is they're very efficient. A large fraction of the dollars that go to Jdrf go right to research. Okay, and so what that means is when their fundraising falls off, what's going to happen is less money is going to research. They don't have a lot of fat in Jdrf to cut. I mean, there's no way to cut expenses in Jdrf without impacting research, right? And I think as was mentioned right at the very beginning, there are some really exciting research projects right now. I mean, the first, which was mentioned, was cell replacement therapy. So in case you don't understand what that means, I mean, what type 1 diabetes is, it's an autoimmune disease where a body's own immune system attacks islet cells, and the islet cells in the pancreas are the part of your body that produces insulin. And so what cell replacement therapy is, okay, let's grow new cells from stem cells that will produce insulin, and let's protect those cells from the immune system, either by coding them or maybe gene editing, so they won't be picked up by the immune system. That is showing great promise, and that is a road to a cure. Okay, I mean, if you know, once we can get cell replacement therapy to work, people with type 1 diabetes will be cured. The other very important area of research is drugs that either slow down or block the development of type 1 diabetes. It turns out that you can determine if people are prone to type 1 diabetes. And so if we can develop therapies that slow down or block type 1 diabetes, lots of people who would otherwise get type 1 diabetes will never develop it. And those two research areas are very promising. In fact, I think what we want to do right now for the slowing down, I unfortunately the name of the drug is slipped out of my mind. I mean, we want to go to phase 3 therapies. We want to get to the point where we're starting to administer this and make this available to patients. But we can't right now because we need more money, right? And so I encourage all of you to please consider joining us in One Walk. Please consider joining us as sponsors. I mean, not only will the money that you help raise make a real difference on research, which is going to make a difference to millions of people, right? It's, I think, an excellent way to build that team camaraderie. It's an excellent way, for your employees to pull together, right, and be part of something that matters, and part of something, that's going to let them feel like part of a great team. And so I really hope you join us as part of One Walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. So appreciative of your leadership and of Oracle leaning in such a big way. You mentioned Jdrf doesn't have a lot of fat to trim. An example of that is one of the things that our organization did in order to trim whatever we could as far as expenses was actually merge 2 chapters. So we have merged with the Northern California Inland chapter, and the Greater Bay Area has become the Northern California chapter. And representing that chapter is one of our past corporate chairs, gala honorees, and the chief operating officer of VSP Global, and that is Ernie Franklin. So I'll pass the mic to you, Ernie.
Thank you, Kevin, very much. Appreciate it. It's very much an honor to be with you, and honor to be with Katie and with Edward, and to hear your stories. Katie, it's so impressive to know what Abbott is doing from a technology perspective, both obviously continued focused on type 1 diabetes, but also from a COVID perspective. So certainly thank you to your organization for everything they're doing to try to get us through this crisis, and certainly on the other side of it. I think we all want to be on the other side of this pandemic for sure. I thought it would be interesting for me to tell you a little bit about my story and my involvement. And I've been involved now with Jdrf for over 10 years. And a little, unlike Edward, my children did not have type 1 diabetes. We were blessed with 2 healthy, athletic young boys. But one of my best friend's daughter was diagnosed with diabetes at a very young age. Hannah was 5. And I had the opportunity to watch them deal with the type 1 diabetes, deal with everything that, Edward, I'm sure you've had to deal with, and what I have learned over the last 10 years or so that in the young ambassadors talked about this morning from a reality of living with type 1 diabetes. And because of that, I got involved. I actually got involved. I've now been involved in Jdrf from the East Coast to the West Coast, and now the Greater Bay Area. So I'm just going to cover the entire country if I can. It's been a joy to be involved with the organization, because of the organization is so focused on a mission, and continues to be so focused on a mission to, not just help people to live with type 1 diabetes, but to solve type 1 diabetes, which is, I love, Katie, your slogan to get to type none, type 0. I think that's definitely where we want to be. However, it's been interesting for me how much improvement we've made in individuals' lives that are living with type 1 diabetes over the last 10 years. So that's an important part of our mission, to make lives easier to live, and certainly technology. And it's great to have great technology companies like Oracle. And, I guess I should also say thank you, because you're both great customers of VSP Global, as so many, we have 90 million folks in the U.S. So it's great to have great clients like the 2 of you, and we are also clients of some great technology companies as well. But the coupling of great scientists like what Abbott represents, and great technology companies like Oracle and others represent, I think the merger of those is going to continue to help us improve the lives of folks that are living with type 1 diabetes, and then again one day to solve it. So that's, my journey has been involved through my meeting of Hannah, my good friend Rick Barnett's daughter, and unfortunately Rick died at a very young age, or now 5 years ago. And I continue to be involved in honor of Rick and continue to help solve and complete this mission. That's my focus. When I joined VSP a couple of years ago, after spending 30 years in a different healthcare side of the world, it was interesting because now my chief of staff, Jen Dole, who I think is on this call, she's a board member in the North Chapter, asked me to get involved. And I don't know how she learned about my involvement in Jdrf, but somehow she did. And it was interesting because, VSP is very much focused on improving the health and lives of its members. And we believe through the work that we do in optometry and the study of the retina, we can learn so much about the health of individuals and continue to help improve the lives of folks. So it was a natural for us, and every year, it was interesting. So every year we actually, this is something that I'd never done before in all my prior corporate years of working. We asked our employees, what is it you want to focus on as a corporate giving campaign? And our employees voted for Jdrf. And I think the reason is because so many lives are impacted every day. I mean, I'm always surprised and amazed at the people that I meet that don't have an immediate family member, a son or a daughter, or it's just someone else that's involved, whether it's a cousin, an aunt, a great friend, or whatever. There's so many people. I think, Edward, you talked about the number of 1.7 million, or maybe that was your son that mentioned that earlier in his message. There are so many folks that are impacted. So I was pleased to hear when VSP took up the torch for Jdrf, and we had an amazing year. I understand. I've only lived in North California now for a couple of years, but I understand it was a historical giving year from a corporate perspective, and I was so proud of our company for their giving. We had thousands of people around the country that did the walk, and then again, I was honored this year to be the honoree, and I think we had a great virtual giving campaign. So it's been a great experience for me to be involved, and we're passionate about helping to solve this issue with type 1 diabetes. And I think, Edward, you laid it out really well. It's, why now? And there's a lot of challenge out there because all not-for-profits are going through difficult times. But we don't want to go backwards. I would say to all of you involved and all of you that are going to be involved, we cannot allow the science that we have going forward right now to take a step backward and not continue to make the investment, because we are, I think, so close to hopefully stamping out this problem forever. And so it's a great time. Obviously, all organizations, certainly Jdrf, has had a great shoulder of burden now, that because you can't do real walks and some of the things that we've done in the past in terms of our dinners and things like that, there would have to go virtual. And while we've had great success, there's still impacts, financial impacts as a result of that. So my ask is that, if you're on this call, and if you can help rally your companies and rally your organizations to continue to help Jdrf get through this year and in future years, I think we are all going, it's going to be a blessing to all of us. So I appreciate the involvement again, Kevin, and I appreciate what you're continuing to do to look at how to make Jdrf more efficient, and certainly we'll continue at VSP Global to support you in any way we can possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ernie, and thank you to all three of our panelists today, to Edward, to Katie, to Ernie, for really leaning in. Your leadership means so much to the whole community, and we're inspired by your passion and your perseverance, especially now. After Jdrf entered lockdown back in March, we reached out independently to each of these three and many more to say, a lot has changed. Are you still in? And each of you, without hesitation, said, absolutely, we're still in. And that's so inspiring. And I hope that those of you on the call are also all in, and that you are inspired to join us and take the next steps towards a cure, even though things are so different. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider signing on as a corporate sponsor and getting your colleagues in your company involved. We're going to put a link in the chat here today that represents an interest form. that if you are interested, you can fill it out and we will reach out to you and build that sponsorship plan. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors, both on the call and otherwise. Of course, our hero partner for the Northern California One Walk this year is Oracle. Our presenting partners are Abbott Diabetes Care and Oakland A's. And our other sponsors include DevCon Construction, John Muir Health and Stanford Children's Health, Riley Passett Canty, Salinas Valley Memorial Health, Pacific Service Credit Union, Diablo Clinical Research, and Saleshood. And I want to give a special quick shout out to our friends at California's Great America, where we normally host our Silicon Valley Walk. Obviously, that amusement park is shut down at the moment, but looking forward to opening it up. And when it is open, our friends at CGA have invited every one of our walkers in Northern California that raises $100 or more to enjoy the park with a free pass. So thank you for donating those passes to our walkers. It means so much. So a little bit quickly about what the walk is going to look like this year. We can't come together in person, unfortunately, but we know that we can still make a difference. So Jdrf across the country has set a collective goal of 1.6 million miles walked in honor of the 1.6 million people living with type 1 diabetes. And you can track your miles right inside your participant center on the walk website. So what's great about that is you can come together as a team and set a collective goal. I know that our friends at Salesforce that are on the call today have set a pretty aggressive team goal of 50,000 miles walked across the country and across their friends and colleagues at that company. So it's easy to log, and there's going to be a great leaderboard of the most miles walked. And you can do it now. You can start today, and we're looking to hit that threshold by November 1st. We've also set a goal of $50 million raised across the country for type 1 diabetes research, and that's in honor of 50 years of progress since Jdrf was first founded in 1970. Again, that fundraising starts now, and we'd love to work with you and your team to figure out the plan that fits right for you. And then on November 1st, we'll come together in a virtual finish line celebration via a interactive finish line festival website, where we'll be able to recognize our sponsors and have an interactive space where attendees can celebrate and enjoy their accomplishments. And also on November 1st, this is very personally exciting, we're going to be debuting the Jdrf One World, which is a video game inside of Roblox, which if you haven't heard of Roblox, it has 140 million monthly users, and we're going to create the One Walk in a space that people can explore, and we're going to have sponsorship and co-branding opportunities available for all of the above. So if you're interested in any of this, we'd love to chat more. Again, I hope we've given you enough reason to say yes. And if you've already said yes, I hope you say yes. And what else can we do? I want to thank you all. I know there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot of distractions and a lot of challenges in the world today, and you are still making time for Jdrf. I want to take one more time to thank our panelists, Edward, Katie, and Ernie, for joining us today. And to all of our guests, thank you for tuning in. We hope that you'll fill out the interest form and reach out, and we hope that you'll join us at the Jdrf Virtual One Walk. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the virtual space.